You are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome to Law Talk on Germantown Municipal Television. My name is Vince Perryman. I'm a local attorney with the law offices of J. Vincent Perryman. Each month, Law Talk focuses on a wide range of legal issues and topics. Today's show will discuss the office of the Shelby County Divorce Referee. With us now is Shelby County Divorce Referee Cary Woods. Judge Woods, thanks for being with us today. And a lot of people may be sitting here going, what's the divorce referee's office?
Yeah.
So that's probably a good place to start.
Okay. Well, most time when you think about a referee, you're thinking about a sports activity. But the history of the divorce referee's office is that we began in 1915 by private acts of the state legislature, believe it or not. And that office was designed because of the many divorce complaints that were filed in this and surrounding counties and cities. Believe it or not, we're the only divorce referee's office in the state of Tennessee. And that's basically due to the large volume of divorces. We proctor and review every divorce complaint that's filed in Shelby County. Last year, there were approximately 3,200 divorces filed. Wow. And with that number, we have to review every complaint to make sure that it meets the minimum statutory requirements. And so that's my daily job every hour. We e-file them now. They're filed over the internet and they're brought in, so it's a very busy office.
And so, you know, a lot of people may be sitting here thinking that it's just simply administrative, but you guys also preside over hearings as well.
Yes. The office handles what is called motion pending litis hearings, and those hearings provide for temporary hearings on child support and on alimony. More often than not, when a divorce is filed, the spouse may be economically disadvantaged, the spouse may have been a home person, there may be children, and the other spouse may have left, leaving them penniless, leaving them sometimes without places to stay. So it's really a stopgap measure to protect the interests of the children and or the spouse. Typically it has been with the husband who has been the breadwinner. That's your typical example that I can use, and there are several children in the home. The person that, typically the wife, has been a home person and a house manager while the children were young during the first 10, 15 years of their life, and all of a sudden there's some disunity in the family structure. So the father either leaves and takes all the bank accounts with them, leaving the mother and the children penniless and destitute for some reason. So an attorney can, once the divorce is filed, request a hearing within 8 days. And we'll give them a date, and at that date we'll provide temporary alimony, temporary spousal support, and temporary child support in order to just maintain the status quo until the divorce is heard.
Yeah, and I think something to make clear here in our last minute of the segment is that those hearings are just true, well, I guess we've got 5 minutes. I'm getting the wrong cue card or something, but that's okay. Those hearings are actually just like any other court proceeding where there's proof put on, witnesses sworn in, and the rules of evidence and all of those apply, correct?
We apply the local rules for circuit court and of transfer court. We also have what's called an affidavit for income and expenses. That's why we have there just like a full hearing, almost like a full trial. The only thing we don't hear is proof for grounds for the divorce. We hear everything else: the history of visitation, the history of who's been paying the bills, the history of who has the assets in the family, and also we view the standard of living that the parties have become accustomed to.
And I think it's one of those that it's always kind of interesting how some people don't think about this, because they're like, well, gosh, he has, or she has, depending on who the other party is, all this money to hire an attorney and do these things. but I don't have that, and that's something else that can be addressed with you all is some temporary money for attorney's fees.
Oh, sure. We award fees for first having the hearing if the other spouse is economically disadvantaged. But there are certain times when we know that the mother has not had any money, does not have a separate bank account, then we will award attorney's fees or what we call litigation fees and or costs, which will allow the economically disadvantaged spouse to continue with adequate representation.
Yeah, and the one thing I think that when people go into these hearings, sometimes they're heard by you or a deputy referee.
Yes.
How many folks do you guys have in that office now?
Well, it is myself. I'm the only full-time person, along with an administrative law clerk and an executive assistant, and I also have 6 appointed referees that serve with me. And we also, most importantly, hear uncontested divorce cases on Wednesday mornings in each of the circuit courts, and on Monday mornings with the Chancery Court, where we have 3 chancellors there.
Okay. And so people know, if they don't know what an uncontested divorce is, it's just where everybody has agreed this is how we're dividing everything up and we've reached a settlement. Now we just need the court to sign off on it.
That's it. But one of the statutory requirements of the divorce referee's office is that we are to attend every divorce, whether it's contested or uncontested. But our heavy docket is where there are no grounds. There could be grounds, and they'll have to have a witness, but normally it's no contest, irreconcilable differences.
Okay. And the other thing is, as I well know, there's a lot of paperwork that goes in it as far as some of the stuff that has to do with whether or not anybody is a veteran or military service.
Oh, yes. That's extremely important, and it's interestingly different from, I did divorces maybe 20 years ago with Memphis Area Legal Services, and we were required at that time to send to every branch of the military, and they had to send an affidavit back indicating that the party was not in that branch of service. Now we just go with a military affidavit that indicates, to the best of my knowledge, I do not believe that person is in the military. But it is quite a bit of paper, but most people are able to go through it with the assistance of attorneys. But we do have the Access to Justice program, which is out of the Supreme Court, created and maintained by the Tennessee Supreme Court. And a private individual or a pro se litigant can do the paperwork and submit their cases to the court. Now that's successful some of the time, but we always prefer that they receive legal assistance from a reputable firm and or legal services and or the community legal center.
Yeah, and it always makes sense to be able to, at least, even if you're going to do those pro se forms, to get somebody to look over them to make sure that you haven't gone off the road somewhere.
Sure. As you well know from your personal experiences, I believe that you're an excellent attorney, but it took you a while to get there.
That's true.
And we worked together, and you've taught me some things, and I've taught you some things, I hope, by just interacting with one another. So that years of experience, I've been practicing now for 40 years, and that longevity garners me with some sort of experience, and I hope to share it with most of the attorneys who come. And but again, the law is forever changing in this area, as you well know, same-sex marriages, and hopefully later in the program we can talk about child support, how it's changed, and alimony as to how it has changed as well.
Well, and that's an excellent place to stop for this session. When we return, we'll continue our discussion on divorce. Please stay with us.
They're coming. Places, everybody.
Light check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Everything looks good on our end.
And lights.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Don't worry, 74 people were picked before me in the NFL draft.
To fight childhood obesity, United Way and the NFL are helping kids play at least 60 minutes a day.
Okay,
What this place needs is more healthy kids. To get involved or donate, go to unitedway.org/play60.
Now I get it.
You are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back. I'm Vince Perryman, and you're watching Law Talk. Joining us on our show is Shelby County Divorce Referee Cary Woods. We're discussing the duties of the divorce referee and divorce in general. Judge Woods, before the break, you were talking about different changes that have occurred in regards to you all deal with alimony and child support, and I think those are good topics to discuss.
I think child support is the most important aspect in order that we can assure that the children are maintained in their lifestyles, that there's adequate support for them and a nurturing environment and with a nurturing relationship with both mother and the father. So the child support, we have what's called the child support guidelines that are promulgated by Department of Children's Services and Human Services. Generally, we interact with them sometimes. But it provides a guideline for us. It's not the law, but it is there are regulations that indicate where the child will be living, who's the primary parent, how much should child support be, who's paying the insurance, and the interesting new areas of law, recent 2016 cases, deal with calculating child support. That's always an interesting issue. And do we use loans? Do we use stocks to determine the income of the party? Does the child go to private school? Has the child gone to private school for the last 5 years? And extracurricular activity. There are a lot of different elements that cause a great deal of discussion. Some parents believe that I should spend 182.5 days with the father and 182.5 with the mother. But the standard has been about 265 and 8 with the mother, a primary parent, and 80 days with the father. The majority of our cases indicate that the mother has been the typical primary residential parent when the parties separate, but it oftentimes happens that the father sometime may be that person. But we have our court hours and our hearing hours are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays from 1 p.m. till about 4:30 p.m. And we are in session most every day from Monday, and Mondays and Fridays are our special hearings, and those hearings can last from 1 hour to 5 days, depending on the complexity of the nature of the case. So we have people that are millionaires, and it's oftentimes difficult to determine their actual assets and their income, so that can take a great deal of time. We have experts to come in. There are several experts who come around and assist the judges and the referees into the value of the property and the assets of the property.
And it's interesting to me as far as, you know, on the number of days now, we've got that omnibus statute that says maximum time with the child with the best interest of the child.
Yes,
so it's kind of like, well, and no, everybody, the courts are struggling with it, trying to figure out what the state legislature mean with this.
By that. Well, it was essentially designed, again, by, I think, Senator Ford, who decided that each child should have a fair share of the party's incomes, but that has been sort of skewed at this time. It's almost who gets the first bite of the apple, and the income's reduced, and the second kid may get less, or oftentimes may get less. So it's a difficult formula to calculate, and I want to remind you again, they're only guidelines, so we have to use a great deal of discretion. Again, those years I've told you about that have brought about experience. Not everything, although they're under oath, not everything people say is the truth, and so I have to weigh their credibility and life's experiences that I've dealt with while practicing law.
So the other issue that you guys deal with a lot of times is alimony, and I know that becomes more and more difficult because years ago it used to be you just take the length of the marriage, divide by half or something, and that was the length of it. And now it just seems like a crapshoot.
Well, it does. I don't want to use that language, but it's difficult. There's a movement in the country to sort of limit alimony because it hampers future relationships. A person who has to pay alimony, again, we want to believe that parties are equal, the husband and the wife, but there's still a discrepancy in income between men and women, and even the child support guidelines impute a higher income for men than they do women. So we believe that in the future alimony is going to be curtailed and reduced to some amount in hopes that it won't saddle a person, be that the husband or the wife, in their future relationships and in their efforts to establish new families. For instance, some alimony is for the life of the other party. So what effect does that have on future relationships with other people? I think it's a significant factor. If your income is $50,000 and you're paying $2,000 to $3,000 a month, that's just an example, alimony per month. That's not that the parties are not deserving it. Again, alimony, transitional alimony is what I primarily deal with, and temporary alimony is to maintain the status quo until the divorce is finally heard. So once they get into a final hearing or through negotiations, they can reduce that amount or increase that amount in order to allow the one party to transition from being married to being single.
Yeah, and it's one of those that it seems to be all across the board because, and people look at it and they go, well, why is it so vastly different? Yes. My response is, well, it's because everybody's facts and circumstances are different when it comes to alimony.
Again, they surely are. You have more working women now in the force, but there's still a significant number who have chosen, along with their partner, to stay at home and raise the children, which is one of the credit card commercials say it's a priceless cost for that, and I believe that we don't have enough time to talk about. I believe that family structure is probably the basis for the increase in crime as we see it today.
Well, that's true.
Yes.
You know, and I mean, it is interesting if you can. I think you guys do such a good job when you've got parties that are butting heads. If you can get in there quickly, get some things resolved where the referee has heard it, and you're able then to say to the client, well, look, calm down. We've got a ruling here, so, you know.
Let's comply with it. And oftentimes our decisions foster a negotiated divorce settlement. And that's some of our purpose as well. We also hear post-divorce matters briefly. When a child reaches the age of 18, parties are required to come to court to terminate child support. They are 18 and have graduated from high school, and there are no arrears owed, and the child does not suffer from a disability. And it's a unique quirk that if a child does have a significant disability, then the parents or the father or the mother may be required to pay child support for the rest of that child's life. And we have that not too often, but we do have instances like that.
Okay, that's a good spot for us to take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk more with Judge Woods about divorce referees. Please stay with us.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Really? Buzz, what's up, man? You left some leaves burning out here.
Yeah, I just came in just for a second.
Come on, man. If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. You could torch the whole neighborhood.
It's a good point there, Smokey.
9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
You are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back. With us now is Judge Cary Woods, and we're talking about divorce. Judge Woods, before the break, we were talking about the termination of child support when the child's reached 18 or graduated. And it's a simple matter when you've paid in full, but how does it work when you still have arrears owed?
Well, that's a not sometimes a difficult, but sometimes it's a difficult situation. We do have instances where people are still paying child support and the child has reached the age of 30 years of age. Now, that's a double-edged sword. I hear guys sometimes complain, I'm still paying child support. But what that is, that's the money that the mother should have been receiving when the child was of an early age. So we do not terminate the child support. You can terminate the child support and set payments on arrearages. Okay. But we do want that amount to be paid, whatever, and it's an interest-bearing account, may I say as well. So we encourage parties to be financially responsible for their children from birth and pre-birth. The mother needs prenatal care, and the children need support. I'm oftentimes distressed about the current situation in the community where people make collections for school supplies. If parties were fiscally and financially responsible for their children, there would be no need for such a program. But it's been going on for too long, I believe.
That's
But the arrears are, you can't bankrupt arrears. You may have a stay for a period of time, but that's better left for a bankruptcy person to determine, to tell you about that.
I think now the state legislature gave us a little something we can do. If we can get the court to agree and both parties to agree to some lower amount in a lump sum.
That's right. They have created that situation.
But getting 3 people to agree to a lower number, good luck on that.
Yeah. Well, I would. Everything depends on their financial condition, but the parties need child support. I don't care if you have to pick up cans. You need to provide financial support for your children.
Which leads us into the next thing that can happen in there, where you're in contempt for not paying your child support.
Yes. Well, I worked at juvenile court for about 15 years, and we handled contempt dockets, and there are contempt dockets held in both Chancery and Circuit Court. Recently, within the last 6 months, there was a case where a gentleman had failed to pay child support and or alimony, and he was locked up until he gave what we call a purge payment of about $15,000 before he was released from jail. So he rounded up that money within a short period of time, 2 to 3 days. But it's a significant, we are serious about it. As you well know, we can suspend licenses, suspend passports. We're taking every step to assure that these children are well taken care of financially.
I recall one contempt hearing that I had where it was a foreign national that was, German national that lived in South Africa, and he claimed he couldn't get the money in the entire time. And then he started blaming when he started looking that it was going to be a purge amount, he was going to go to jail over the Christmas break. He throws his attorney under the bus, and then it was just kind of fun watching him cross-examine his own client. It turned out the $6,500 he owed was in his lap the entire time.
The entire time.
The entire time.
That's great.
And it's one of those where I always use that as an example to stress to people, if you have the money, just pay it.
Pay it.
It's much easier than all the headache of the argument and everything else with it.
Well, there are no sympathies or prejudice against theoretically, and but a person who does not pay child support, that's an interesting person or creature, whatever you want to call them.
and it is one of those that I've never seen something that will get you in trouble quicker in court. If you may be in saying, hey, I need more time with my kid, but if the opposing party brings up, hey, they're behind in their child support, all of a sudden it's...
You know, Mr. Perryman, there's no correlation between child support and visitation. You still can receive visitation if you do not pay child support. But that just shows you the nature and the color of the person. But if they fail to pay it, they could lose their jobs by being locked up, lose their jobs, lose their license, lose their cars, lose everything. So it's something that you can avoid. And I wish that we, again, would have more programs such as this in the high schools, because I think these young people need to learn about relationships, about what protections they have with the law, but they also need to know what rights they have. So blazing across the Supreme Court are 2 or 3 significant words, I believe: rights and responsibilities. And they have the right to do just about anything they want, but if you have children, you have the responsibility of providing a nurturing environment for them from birth through 18 years of age.
Yeah, and I think as we kind of wrap up here, the interesting thing that I always tell everybody is the law is a fluid thing. It's always changing. And now with the same-sex marriage, we've got, you know, just looking at some of our statutes and everything where under the child support guidelines, when it talks about substantially equal time or whatever, and saying that the alternate residential parent will be the father if it's 50-50.
Yeah.
And I was looking at that the other day because I've got my first same-sex divorce I'm going to have to do, and I'm going, well, I got two fathers.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, that's going to be interesting.
You know.
But we also have those important thing about child support and the permanent. We have this permanent parenting plan, which is included in the divorce, and you can't take the child 50 miles away from the residence without notice to the other parent. If they leave town, you have to have a hearing if one is requested. But the important thing about that, parental rights, right to phone conversations with the minor child, the right to school records and medical records, and that presents a lot of problems that these parties are not reasonable to some degree.
Yeah.
So that presents a lot of litigation. That's what my job is, to try to resolve these. And sometimes the referee word may be a good, may be a good term, but it's called now proctoring. It's been changed from referee to proctoring, which means that you still have to review all answers, complaints, cross complaints, and things of that nature. So it's an interesting job, and I enjoy it quite a bit. Sometimes the lawyers are more interesting than the client.
Well,
and you're one of them.
that can be the case.
Yes.
And I have to say, we enjoy having you there.
All right.
So, our time is up for this edition of Law Talk. I would like to thank our guest for taking time out of his busy schedule and being with us and sharing his thoughts and insights. If you'd like more information about Law Talk or any other program on Germantown Municipal Television, please refer to our website at www.gmtvonline.org. Thank you for joining us today, and be sure to join us next month for more discussion on legal topics. Until then, I'm Vince Perryman. Thank you for watching.